Norfolk Business Show. Good vibes and great conversation with Danny Snelling. Sponsored by MT Comms.
Okay, so we're on to episode 2, believe it or not. So episode 2, and we have with us Chris Reeve, who bit of a dab hand at these sorts of things, aren't you? And I'm hoping to get a few tips and tricks off him, actually. But for those who aren't aware, Chris, would you like to, I don't know, give us a bit of an intro to yourself?
Sure.
How should people know you? Certainly for the non-football fans like
Should
myself.
or would.
But yeah, until probably a year or two ago, I'd never heard of you. But my sons, who are both Norwich City fans, just said, have you not got this guy into Lunch Club yet? And that's how we met. But yeah, sorry, go in.
Well, thank you for the invite, Danny. I really appreciate it. And just so the audience knows, I walked in and really appreciated this podcast setup that you've got going on in the early days. I'm very impressed. So you say I'm a dab hand, but actually you've got a lot of it on lock already, sir. So
that's only from watching yours for those few tips. But
so for those of you guys that are maybe watching or listening to this back and don't know who I am, if you're local, you probably know me from ranting and raving about our beloved Norwich City. So if you're an Ipswich fan, apologies in advance, you're not going to like this podcast.
They shouldn't even be watching. It's a Norfolk business show.
Yeah, true. But what I would really love people to know me for is that I specialise in social media. I've been doing it now for over a decade, and I'm the managing director of Reeve Social Media. And we specialise in purposeful social media that creates impact. So from coaching to consultancy to management. And that's what I really love and really enjoy, whether it be with local Norfolk-based businesses or businesses beyond that. So that's a quick whistle-stop tour, I guess. It's worth probably mentioning I'm also a official ambassador of Big C, local cancer charity. Not a kick in the pants off 50 grand raised for them now, and have a personal target and mission that I want to get to 100k. So I'm on my way with that. And that probably gives you a very quick whistle stop tour to who I am and how I help people.
Well, I think we'll try and hit on each of those, but I don't know, perhaps let's start at the beginning with you, Chris. Where were you from originally?
Yeah.
How did you end up in our little back end here in Norfolk?
Well, I'm Norfolk born and raised.
Okay.
My mum's from Essex, which is maybe why I've avoided the Norfolk dulcet tones. My family are all boat builders, actually. Norfolk Broads boys, and kind of bucked the trend and have really gone on to jump straight into modern technologies to have the career and the life that I have now. I still love the Norfolk Broads and the boats on the Norfolk Broads.
I've got to jump in there.
Come on.
What was the firm? Because I'm a keen boater myself. Got a boat on the Broads. And,
so it's Herbert Woods.
Yeah, I know
is
them,
one of them. Yeah. And Ferry Marina was another one as well.
Yeah.
So they've all been in boats. So doing that, and I've kind of then gone away from that and doing what I've done today. I started out. I went to Framingham High School. And I got a job as a kitchen porter at the King's Head in Brook. So I started off washing dishes and going home with kind of fish and beans in my fingernails and things like that. And then just really jumped into the world of marketing, Danny. And I was doing various different roles in marketing to get to the point, of starting my business and getting to the point that I've got to today. Some parts of the journey I've been redirected, but most parts of the journey I wouldn't have changed at all.
No. Well, that's what shapes us, isn't it? But so what was your first real job in that marketing side?
So the first job I had was with Norwich City Football Club. Yeah. So I was a marketing assistant there on a year's apprenticeship. So I was doing all of the graphic design, some of the photography, some of the website, the club shop stuff. Organising the flags on a match day, which was a bit random. That was my first job in marketing. And at the time when I didn't get the opportunity to continue on that role into a permanent one, I thought my life was over, because my love, I hope my wife's not watching this, my love is Norwich City, right? So I was devastated at the time. I thought nothing will ever match this. And then I realised that actually that was going to be a ceiling for me, and that I've managed to achieve so much more, not working for the love of my life.
Yeah. Well, on that subject, the talk Norwich City. I don't think many people, especially non-footballers like myself, understand what it is. What is it? Is it a business? Is it a show? Is it who owns it? Those sorts of things.
Both. So the story with Talk Norwich City. So for those of you who don't know what it is, it's the largest Norwich City fan channel, and it was one of the first of its kind. So a number of years ago, probably about 10 years ago now, football clubs started to get what they called fan channels, but they were run by fans, so they weren't necessarily associated with the club directly. Well, actually, most often they weren't. And we were one of the first, the real kind of trailblazers.
I guess that's what fans liked, because it wasn't from them, it was from the fans.
It's not polished, it's raw, it's emotional.
A bit like these podcasts are going to be.
For sure. Well, we'll see what you ask me later on, Danny. So that's what it is. And it started out because part of my story, Danny, is in 2007, my mum died of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer. So hence why I raised money for cancer, etc. And I had gone to this guy in the streets outside the ground called Jack Reeve, who people think he's my brother. And I said, I'll like an interview. And we bonded because he'd just lost his dad. Oh. And so we kind of bonded in the grief of our lost parents. We became best mates as well as colleagues. So essentially we then co-founded what was Talk Norwich City, and we grew it from interviews outside the ground into podcasts and into special guest episodes as well, where we interview former players, current players, staff members, and just grew it and grew it and grew it. And then to answer one of your points, is it a business? Yes, because then after, I think it was about 5 years, we monetized it. So we started to give the opportunity for local and national businesses to take advantage of that attention, of that highly engaged community. So yes, it's
just through sponsorship then, or is it?
Yeah. So the way that it makes money is through YouTube revenue, which is not a lot. People think it can be a lot. It's only really a lot when you get to 500,000 subscribers. But under that, you make most of your money if you do monetize it off the back of selling sponsorships to businesses. So that's, logos on banners, it's verbal plugs, it's website links, it's tags on social media, etc. Yeah. So that's how it is, and that's why people know me. So I'm really, really grateful to Jack. I'm really grateful that we've gone on the journey together and have grown it, because it's been a great pull vehicle essentially to getting me well known locally, and I've been able to kind of showcase my social media marketing tools on that platform as well.
So am I right in saying, for those people who maybe want to start a similar sort of channel, they're not going to be a big money earner? They're not.
You need to do it with something else.
Yeah. Do you think any of the big clubs have maybe got fans who are earning big bucks from that type
definitely,
of thing?
Yeah, for sure. Lots of people will know Arsenal Fan TV, for example. That they're probably at the top of their game in terms of, they'll be doing that full time. If you are a supporter of a club like Norwich City, which is not one of the biggest clubs in the country, sadly.
Really?
You can't. Well, yeah, you would think it should be, Danny.
I think by the way my kids go on about it, that they were. I don't know.
But no, it's not a full-time gig, running a fan channel for a club of the size of Norwich City, regardless of the income that it produces for us. But people do very well out of it if they want to. But people always say, should you have started? I think it sounds quite selfish, but my answer to people now is no, don't do it. And people don't realise that when you start a social media channel, a community, a business in the football space, the sports space, the beauty space, there's a couple of other sectors as well. It can be so toxic online, and the backlash, the mental health implications of running a social media channel, which is all opinions. is really difficult. So if I could kind of go backwards, yes, I've appreciated where I've gone with Talk Norwich City, but I would have probably actually doubled down on my social media marketing earlier.
Yeah,
And I would have just done a social media marketing podcast, which I now love and enjoy.
Yeah. Wow, yeah. Well, I'm glad you cleared that up for the non-football fan in the room, but for anyone else, I'm sure, you know, there's always, for people who aren't involved in a sport, it's just always a bit of a, what's all that about, you know, and my sons constantly go on about it, and it's obviously doing something right anyway, and you've certainly brought a community together, I'm sure.
And actually there's a lesson in that, Danny, is and that word's chucked about a lot these days, is community. But it's so important, and it's something that I advise businesses to really think about when it comes to their social media marketing in general, is like how can you build a community around your product and service, and if you can do that via these incredible social media platforms, you'll be successful. And that's what I really learned off the back of Talk Norwich City.
Great. Okay, so Talk Norwich City. Then what, or you know, what were you doing alongside that? I suppose.
Well, Talk Norwich City has been alongside my career journey for the last decade plus now. So I've been doing that whilst being in various marketing positions. Started to learn what was good about marketing, started to learn what was questionable about marketing, learn how not to do things as well as how to do things. And throughout that time, Danny, just became more and more inspired to start my own business one day. It's been a big goal of mine. My mum was a successful salesperson before she passed away, was doing really well in her company, really kind of sponged off of her work ethic, working late, etc. The same with my father, my dad, Peter Reeve. Many of you will know, watch and listen to this in the local Norfolk community. He's always been a grafter, working hard in business. And so I knew I wanted to start my own business. I had this kind of entrepreneurial fire within me that I had to light at some point. But I'll be honest, Danny, I never had the bollocks. Excuse my French.
No, I know what you're going to say. Yeah.
I never had the bollocks to actually take the jump.
Yeah.
And so I never ever claimed that I'm like this brave guy that started the business, because I was made redundant during the pandemic right at the start. And then that was where I thought, right, do you know what? Yeah, this is where I'm going to go official with it and go all in on it. Yeah. So I've always done it as a side hustle and earned money from running social media accounts. But then that was when I went official, and haven't looked back really, because the pandemic was then the moment where everything online hockey sticked even more than it was already. So it was a really exciting wave to ride.
You're not alone in that whole journey. I'm sure, myself included, and I'm sure many business owners, you know, it's just about taking that initial step. But once you have,
it is, yeah.
So why didn't I do this sooner?
Yes.
Why didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, you're not alone in that one, definitely. So, you know, coming out of the pandemic, you know, obviously most people think starting a business after the pandemic is probably the worst thing you can do. But actually, I've heard many people who've actually used that as an almost stepping stone to like say, social media boomed. I would imagine it wasn't all that bad. Am I right?
Yeah. I'm always quite sensitive around this one, because it was incredible for me, really. As I say, it was one of those fortunate ones where I hit it at the right time.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know you make your own luck and all of that, but I'm also just so hypersensitive to the fact that the pandemic was a monumentally shit time for most people.
Yeah.
And it was for me kind of off the pitch, so to speak, to use a football analogy, but kind of on the pitch in the business world, it was good, because everyone was thinking more online, and traditional businesses that hadn't ever tried social media before were turning on to social media and the opportunity that it can bring. People were thinking about building a personal brand or becoming a key person of influence using a tool like LinkedIn. They were jumping on YouTube. They were doing live broadcasts, Instagram lives, and all of this stuff. And so, that was really the moment that, I always like to use that analogy. Really, I looked at the wave coming, and I got on my surfboard at the right time.
Yeah.
But then I could have quite easily just been swallowed by the wave.
Yeah.
And it was to thanks, to various people throughout my career that gave me the business nous to be able to kind of ride that wave in the right way.
Yeah. And I don't know, would you say you're sort of still doing a similar day to day as you are now, or has it evolved massively since then? And
it has evolved. I wouldn't necessarily say massively, but in terms of what I do on a day to day, week by week, it varies, Danny, really, because I'm so blessed that by design, when I started my business, I wanted to have variety. And so when someone says to me, what's your ideal customer profile, Chris? My ideal customer profile is someone that has got high energy, that's kind and caring, that's local, that really genuinely cares about their customers, their clients, what they do, how they help people. So, 1 minute it could be a cosmetic clinic that I look after. Another minute it could be the largest gymnastics flooring provider in the UK, a coach. It's completely varied. So my day can be account management calls to new business pitches to podcasts and guest writing and knowledge sharing, filming content. It completely varies, but that's what I love. Because I'm one of these people where if I was sat doing the same thing all day every day, it would just ground me into oblivion, really. So
what does your sort of typical day? I don't know. What time do you get up? And what do you do? You came in here with a health shake, I noticed.
Well, I'm trying. We are filming this in January for pure transparency. So at the minute,
is this part of a New Year's resolution, perhaps?
The health kicks there. I'm trying to be more healthy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm afraid to say that I am part of the 5 a.m. club. Some people aren't, and some people don't like it, but I am a part of it. But at the same time, I'm a massive believer in work-life balance. I do believe it exists. I'm not in the hustle, do more club. I just believe that if you wake up early, you can take more time for yourself, full stop. So it's wake up, it's to the gym, doing an hour in the gym, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday is a walk around the lake, and Friday is a nothing rest day, which is good. I listen to a podcast every morning for an hour to make sure I've ticked my personal development box, because a big problem with my world, Danny, is I don't know what it's like in yours, but marketing, to be frank, is often full of people that fall into it that share knowledge that they learned 30 years ago that is no longer relevant. So one of my big selling points is being on top of the latest trends, the tools, the techniques, the platforms. And if you're not, you're not as valuable to a business. So that's what I do, listen to a podcast in the morning, and then it's then into the day. It's half an hour long coaching consultancy meetings. It's creating content. It's creating social media strategies for businesses of all shapes and sizes. Or filming content, as I say, filming myself on video, sharing the knowledge that I've learned. Today is Monday. I had to think about that one.
Yeah,
that sums up how busy my January.
Then when you said it,
today's Monday. So Monday's my football media day. So I've filmed Talk Norwich City podcast today for an hour. Tonight at 6:00 is my BBC Radio Norfolk show as well, which I didn't say at the start I do.
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah.
So yeah, that's my average day, but it can completely vary. I think what makes me a bit different to the other kind of marketing geeks, Dan, is I'm quite happy to do in person. So some of my time is full of traveling on set, so to speak.
I was actually then going to ask, next question, what sets you apart from, Joe Bloggs, who does social media marketing? Is it that face-to-face? Is it that known face as well?
Partly. I think the known face bit is, the thing that I would say about that is I'm one of the only marketing agencies locally that's actually been successful on social media. Yeah. So lots of people preach about it, but it's the cobbler's shoe situation where they're doing it for everyone else but not themselves. So that's part of our edge. We've actually done it, and we've monetized our social. We've grown social. But I think massively the key point of difference, Danny, is I'm from a commercial background. So my roles have been in marketing and sales. So I'm a big believer in not just posting for posting's sake. Everything's got to be targeted towards a commercial objective. So there's no pointless posting. And that's what business owners like that work with us. We're not just posting fluffy marketing stuff for the sake of it to take your money when you're not going to get a return on investment.
It's like what we were discussing before we started the camera rolling, but the first thing you asked me was, why am I doing this? And selfishly, there's a bit of promotion here, but I don't want to make it obvious to you guys. But you've got that's the most important thing. That's what we're all here for.
Yeah.
Is your why. Why are you doing it?
Yes.
What do you hope to achieve?
Yeah.
And
you're bang on, Danny. And that question, I like to ask that question a lot, and I ask that question of my clients, whether it be on coaching or consultancy for social media or social media management, is like, what is your why here? What are you actually doing? Rather than the classic when you outsource it to a creative or a marketer, is they just do loads of stuff. They just do loads of activity, or they listen to your brief, but then they end up supplying you with something that's just what they want you to do, not what you need it to do.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what makes us different.
Yeah. Makes sense. And I don't know, what have you experienced any massive downsides during the since you launched your business? Have you had any challenges?
Yeah, I have. The one big challenge that I've learned is, I've always been fine with delegating. I'm not particularly precious, so everything goes through me, but I'm happy to use trusted partners and genuine specialists, local specialists, keyword there, local specialists in their field to support my business. But the thing that I learned quite quickly, which I think I have to be honest about and vocal about, is that the money side of things, which is obviously very important, it's not a strong point of mine, which some people are, why are you admitting that, Chris? But it's true. I failed maths at school. I got a D in maths, which isn't the C that you need to get various jobs. I had to go to night school to retake, etc. So I've got a bit of an inbuilt
I've done exactly the same thing, I think.
So I've got a bit of a psychological blocker with that. So that's taken some learning. So one of the things that I did is I engaged with a business that I won't name, obviously, but I regretted engaging with them because they were overcharging me and not giving me the service that I needed. And when I broke the VAT threshold a couple of years back, unfortunately, I'm trying to be careful with this. Unfortunately, they didn't do themselves in glory around that, and so I had to pay a fine, which was a shame. But that's one of the things that I've learned in business. I think also the big mistake I've made away from that is going against my gut, and that's quite I feel like that's quite generic. Like, people do say that, don't they? Trust your gut. But I don't know about you, Danny. But when you've gone against your gut, how many times has it kicked you in the goons?
Yeah. There's often times where, and I guess what it is, I've learned to understand my gut feeling. So sometimes my gut can be right, sometimes it can be very wrong, but usually I'll know when it's very wrong, and I won't take its advice. It's usually around something bright and shiny I can buy, or a new gadget or toy or car or boat or something expensive, and it's telling me to buy it, but sometimes there is gut and head, isn't there? And it's just, sometimes obviously you have to go against your gut feeling, don't you? But,
yes.
In business as well, obviously there's always, I wouldn't say crooks out there. They're just, people who don't really have that care, I suppose, and compassion.
For the wrong reasons, maybe.
Yes and no. Sometimes it's just genuinely they're just too busy dealing with other customers, to provide you that personal service. And a lot of the time they've just become too big for their own good, and that you do see a lot in business. And I know a lot of people who mean well, but they're just too busy to provide a good service, and that's usually all it is. But it's interesting. Could go on for hours about gut feelings and crooks out there, because there are crooks out there. They're everywhere you turn.
And my point linked to this and off the back of that, Danny, is it specifically around trusting your gut with people? And when you meet people, you can feel, and I'm not, I'm not into all of that, I'll call it, but I do believe in energy, an energy exchange. And when you sit down with someone and you can instantly feel this is going to be a good relationship where we help each other, or this is going to be a takey, selfish, grabbing onto your
I think you
coattails
can
one.
instantly tell if someone's trying to sell to you or got some sort of ulterior motive, or I can anyway.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, I tend to sort of shy away from any conversation like that because I don't ever want to be sold to. I don't know why. I don't. I mean, people say I'm a salesman, but I'm not. But every business owner is a salesman to some degree. But I would never actually come out and ask for the business. I never have done. I've always been, just here's what I do.
Yes.
If you want to approach me, and I'm more than happy
Laid
to,
back,
whether that's laid back, I don't know. I mean, it's more, I don't like salesy people. it's weird. I don't like salesy approaches.
But you do what you do well, Danny, which I preach on social media, is you serve, not sell. Is you're here to serve your community, to help them, to genuinely help them, not sell them something that they don't need.
Yeah, and to be fair, I've always asked that question: how can we help you? Not what can we sell you? I've always done that. But yeah, it is interesting when you if you've had a bad experience with another business or a service or anything, there is always those people out there, shall we say, who are not like you and I, perhaps, who are out for the wrong reasons, I guess. But interesting, you'll know I run the lunch club. There's been quite a few, shall we say, characters over the years come and gone from that, and I always see the best in people, I guess, and I'll have people whispering to me, "Oh, they ripped me off, or they done this. They shouldn't be coming along here." But until they've ripped me off, or I know for a certain they've done that to someone I know to be a good person, then I wouldn't say a bad word against anyone until I don't know. Maybe I'm too trusting. I don't know, but there've been a few characters over the years that we've had come and go, should we say?
I think that's the unsexy or downside of being one of the good guys and seeing the good in people and seeing the glass half full. Is unfortunately I've had to learn, to go back to your previous question about the mistakes, or the biggest learning is sometimes you have to learn to have another side to you if you're one of the nice guys.
I guess so. So that was perhaps not a mistake you've made, but that's a downside you've overcome. What about upsides? What's been the most, what's been your best job or your best client?
Wow.
Best achievement?
Oh, wow. That's a hell of a question. Cool. Blimey. Oh, that's a great question. Biggest achievement.
We can come back to it.
I think building, growing, curating, creating, my own personal social media accounts to, create a platform for myself to, be on the biggest radio show locally, to be interviewing high net worth individuals on the Talk About City podcast. The reason why I've paused on that, Danny, is there are so many campaigns and case studies over the years where I've helped local businesses achieve impact on social media that I really don't know where to start, to be totally honest with you. And I think, but that's the actual magic is, whether it be I have posted something on social media for someone that's ended up in them selling something for, I don't know, 100 quid, or whether it be putting something on social media that's sold them a modular home for 130,000 off one Instagram post. They actually mean the same thing to me, and that's why I love dealing with local people and working with local businesses. But I think in terms of one of my biggest achievements, I'd say it would be raising all of that money for Big C, the local cancer charity, through social media, through live streaming on YouTube, plugging and promoting effectively, using all of the social media platforms. I'd say that's the thing that's given me the most fulfillment.
Well, let's touch on the Big C. So you're an ambassador, am I right?
Yeah,
Big
I am,
C.
yeah.
So how did that come about? And what do you do?
Well, I think it got to the point for them where I was just so obsessively fundraising for them that they kind of had to. Obviously, there's the link with my mum, so they massively helped her when she was going through cancer. So they help with wigs. So if you're going through chemo and you lose your hair, they provide wigs, loads of counselling support, therapy, family counselling, bereavement stuff. There's a million and one things that Big C do, as well as they're obviously critically the research. So I've been in the lab for a tour of the lab to see all of the geeks doing their various experiments, which sounds like another world, and it is, to be honest with you. But they were kind of telling me about what each machine costs, and I think at the time that I went, we'd just done a campaign. We did a 24-hour. We did a 24-hour what's called a watch along, which is like Gogglebox for those of you that don't know. So we did like a Norwich City version of Gogglebox, where we watched the football and then we chatted with loads of guests for 24 hours around the clock for charity. We raised 23 grand. And then we walked into the Big C laboratory, and they said that machine there cost 19 grand. And I thought to myself,
Christ, just that one show.
We've got some work to do then, because I really, really want to try to obviously help if I can in any way with that. So yeah, I've done bucket shaking, I've jumped out, I've done the 13,000 feet skydive for Big C, the live broadcast, selling Norwich City merchandise and collectible items and things like that, any way, shape or form. So they've invited me to become an official ambassador. I've been delighted to accept that. So anywhere possible now, using my profile, I always talk about Big C and how they help local people affected by cancer.
Is that the only sort of commitment from you that you just keep promoting it?
It's not like
there's no sort of board meetings or anything like that.
No. There's no board meetings. I mean, every now and then, maybe like every year, I have an ideation meeting with them where we talk about, here's what I'd love to get from you guys to disseminate across my social platforms, whether that be statistics or we discuss key campaign ideas and things like that. How can we use your profile, Chris, to spread the message? So it's not necessarily all about trying to raise money. It's actually talking about how they help. Because sadly they're in a position where, and I'm sure they won't mind me saying, there is a misconception or stigma around some cancer charities, particularly national ones, where the money doesn't go to where it should do, or not enough of it.
I think
goes
that's true
where it
of any big charity these days, isn't it? It's just
possibly. And so, like with the Big C, I've seen firsthand how much work they do and how much of an impact they have. So part of my mission is to broadcast that message and show people, this is how they helped this person, this is how they helped my mum, this is how they helped that local family. And so it's not all about give us some money. It's actually about telling people how they help.
And one thing I always like to touch on, or in the future I'm always going to want to try and touch on, is technology. Obviously it's what I do, but I hope to ask each guest about technology, how their business has worked with it, alongside it, maybe threats and things you see for the future, and what with AI and such like.
Yeah, well, definitely AI for sure. I think my first kind of delve into the world of technology, which is quite a basic bit of technology, but I'm so grateful for, is we use different software to produce and share social media content at key times. So we have an online scheduling tool that we use for that, which I could not live without. And this is actually a good tip for businesses watching, is that you need to use that technology to post on your audience's time, not on your time. Because the classic mistake, Dan, is you'll share this podcast potentially between the hours of 9 till 5. Are business leaders on social media between 9 till 5? Well, some of them are, yes, of course, lunch breaks, coffees, etc. But most of the day is full of doing the do, selling the sell, or meetings, right? So being able to post first thing in the morning, late at night once they've had tea and put the kids to bed, and thinking about when you're posting is important. So that technology is absolutely vital for my business and how it works. I could not run hundreds of platforms for all of the businesses that I look after.
I assume you're talking about post more, more normal content, not, for example, this podcast.
Well, it could be this podcast. It could be. It could be clips of this podcast,
I guess so,
or normal plugs and promotions for businesses.
Yeah.
could be.
So I haven't thought about all this yet. If I'm actually gonna promote it at all,
You are.
I've got to do
you
that.
Are. You are.
Yeah.
You
but
should
no,
do. But AI as well is massive, Danny. You have to. That's both a huge opportunity and also a threat for some businesses as well. What's going to happen over the next few years is there's going to be a job that's going to come up in most businesses, and it's going to be a prompt engineer or prompt executive or prompt assistant or prompt manager. And another tip for businesses watching is you need to get really good at telling AI to do things and how to work AI. The reason. The only thing I'd say with AI is insanely incredible in what it does, and especially in the world of social media, what it does in terms of ideation, coming up with content, it's incredible. But if your prompts are crap, what it will give you is crap.
as good as what you tell it.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I would just implore that businesses are so careful with what they're giving AI tools and then what they're choosing to go with without proofing it, without, keyword here, humanizing it as well. So you've got to make sure that you use that. So AI is incredible. Do use it. We use it within our business with our clients for certain elements, not all elements. But you've got to make sure you humanize it.
I think that's obviously the key. But are the platforms keeping on top of what is and isn't AI generated?
They are.
And are they?
They are. They're sussing it out, Danny.
Yeah.
They're sussing it out. And the thing that you would have spotted, I'm sure, on LinkedIn already is, do you know the thing that makes me laugh, Danny, is you can tell instantly if someone's using it.
Well, I know you and I can, but can Joe Public, can people who are not perhaps versed in AI? And
yes, in the sense of if your mate Gary down the pub, the next day, all of a sudden is posting 5 pages and it sounds like he's swallowed a thesaurus, then it's obvious, isn't it? And that's the thing. That's why I say to people, you've got to get good with your prompts and you've got to still add your authentic edge to it, because if not, the social media platforms will penalise you for using pure AI content.
Yeah. And I guess it's not enough just to go in and change a few words and make a few spelling mistakes.
I think it depends what the content is.
If it isn't now, I'm sure it will.
For sure.
Yeah. It is getting clever, isn't it? But the other thing is if it's majority of people who are using it, eventually they're going to have to concede and obviously let it through. And let it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think this is another opportunity. This is the thing, right? With that coming through now, and it's going to get even more popular and become even more incredible in terms of its capabilities. The other side of that, which I'm really preaching to businesses now, Danny, and this is why this is good, what we're doing now. There's nothing more trustworthy or impactful than video.
Yeah, you say that though, but I could probably the technology exists. I'm sure it does, and I've made similar things myself. We could create this in AI.
We could
probably do that now with technology we've got now. So we just take a still shot of us sat here like this.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we could have a phone conversation. Yeah. It could make our lips move.
I agree.
Quite easily. But yes, video is great, but
in terms of
where is it all going, I guess,
in terms of the standard AI stuff that's being produced, Danny, my point to business owners is, if you can create your own video content and share that, it's going to be a cut above, and people are then going to buy into that so much more because people are able to use AI for copy stuff. And it will be a real good proof for like the good businesses doing good work that really know their stuff. They'll come on video and they will be able to share their knowledge. Yes, you can get an AI tool to do that. At the moment, I believe the technology is not quite there to produce something completely believable and genuinely authentic. If it's you and I. But it will get there. It will get there, trust me.
It's not far off.
But for the meantime, my advice to businesses is the way to kind of, grab attention and split yourself apart from the AI noise is produce video content like we're doing today.
And how do you think it's going to evolve? We're sat here now talking about the abilities to do something like this now, but that's just, the speed it has got to where it is just so frightening. can you predict 5-10 years in the future where we're going to be with AI and what we're going to be?
Not exactly.
No,
and
I don't think anyone can.
And that's the right
scary
answer.
thing, yeah.
And that's the right answer.
Yeah.
The thing that is going to happen is that you're going to see governments get involved because it's scary, use this word, frightening, what AI can do and can achieve. It's also bloody remarkable. We talk about, we've spoken about cancer on this podcast, what AI tools can spot in terms of cellular data and things like that.
Yeah.
It's so it could should and already is being incredible in terms of that stuff, but it can also be frightening and scary in terms of what it can do too. So I think you're going to see governments come in, regulations come in. You're going to see new jobs come in as well, where AI specialists are going to be at the forefront. It's going to be part of the education system and the curriculum.
Education's a big one.
The curriculum, sorry. But I can't sit here and predict 10 years time. But what I will say is we won't be doing this in 5 years time because so much of it will be AI.
Yeah. Well, on that note, is there any sort of tips and tricks you can give me on podcasting in general? Codpasting. But I set this up as a little hobby more than anything. No intention to set the world alight, but it seems to have got some massively good feedback so far. Yeah. I've got some incredible guests lined up. How do I do them a good service, if you like? Because I wasn't going to do any editing, but I've already sort of started dabbling in editing software and talking of AI, and it transcribes the whole thing, doesn't it? And you can take all the ums and buts and maybes out.
Yes, you can. Yes,
it's going to be really valuable.
Descript. Are you using Descript for that?
CapCut.
CapCut.
Yeah.
Well,
I've got
Descript's another good one
as well. Yeah. What was the other one? I just. But
there's
loads, and I've been experimenting with it all. But I did say I don't want it to be a time leech. Yes. I don't want it to be heavily edited. I don't want to be all fancy effects going on and stuff like that and explosions in the background. Who knows?
But that's the problem for businesses to start a podcast, is that it will become a distraction. It shouldn't be a distraction. Yeah. And so my advice to begin with, top line for anyone, is what's your why behind it? It's not just having a chat. It might look like it and feel like it, but it's not. And that's the art of a good podcast, is that it feels like a normal chill chat, but there's got to be some strategy behind it for your business.
Yeah.
What are you trying to achieve with it? Is it to build rapport with your customers and clients? Is it to build your partnerships with local networks? Is it to help local causes? Is it to sell products and services? But you need to know, because the guests that you invite on should point you closer into that direction. If not, it does become a time sap and a distraction with no outcomes.
Yeah. I mean, as I said before, there's no getting away from the fact I've done it to promote our business.
Yeah.
But equally, I think I've just gained so many connections over the years in Norfolk.
Yeah.
With running the lunch club, with B&I, I've done 15 years. I just honestly saw it as a way of connecting people and almost building a community within, because there hasn't really been one voice of the business community in Norfolk for the 15 years I've been involved in it.
Yeah.
There have been, of course, there's the B&Is of the world, but they're quite insular.
Sure.
There's obviously some of the other Chamber of Commerce, of course.
Yes.
But again, they're not really one voice, and I honestly saw this as a way of, being a voice of smaller.
So that's a really good
smaller
mission,
businesses who can have a voice, if you like.
Giving a voice to local Norfolk.
One of the things
businesses
I want to ask you, but I'll be asking every person that comes on this, is what can our listeners do for you? So is there one connection that you'd love to make?
That's really kind.
What is your dream referral, for example? What would be your...
Well, first of all, away from business, if you've not got a charity of the year, make it Big C, Norfolk and Waveney's Cancer Charity. That's my one real ask today. But I'd say in terms of connections for me, Danny, it would be if you are sitting there scratching your head, tearing your hair out on social media with what to post, when to post, why to post, which platforms to post on, you're a good client for Reeve Social Media on a coaching level. So that could be a...
Can I touch on that?
Sure, of course.
As a business owner, what's it going to cost me? To have someone do it for me. I've always dabbled in doing it myself, never done it properly.
Of course.
I even go to the extent to tell people I don't do social media. I do, of course. I don't. Weird thing is, I don't really read the feed.
Sure.
I don't really read much of that. I'll occasionally just look at the first thing that it opens up on.
Okay.
But I don't. Because I know it can leech so much of my time.
Yeah, of
time
course.
I don't have.
Yes.
I deliberately don't scroll below the first page,
Yeah.
and I've always made it a rule not to do that.
Yeah.
Which is bad because my wife knows more about what my friends and other things are going on in the business world than I do. But
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. What's it going to cost me to get in front of people? What?
Well, hang on. Are you talking about what's the cost of someone working with us on a coaching level, or what's the cost of getting in front of people on social media, or what's the cost involved with social media?
I mean, all I know is to put an advert in a newspaper.
Right. Okay. You're going.
Let's go old school and compare it to that.
Well, the answer is, Danny, is what do you want to achieve and how fast do you want to get there? We specialize in what's called organic social, which means the creation and curation and posting of the content without any paid boosted revenue behind it, right? So you can put more money on top to get it directly to the audience that you want to sell to or put it in front of. What we do is organic, which I think is a bit your cup of
you
tea,
can't quantify it so well, I guess.
Yes and no, but I think the key is it's about building the top of your marketing funnel. It's about getting in one of those 7 average touch points on average for someone to make a purchasing decision. It's disseminating educational, interesting, engaging content across your personal LinkedIn account, your business channels, etc. The costs associated with that depend on how many platforms, how many posts. If you want to put paid revenue behind it, we use trusted partners on that, JSB Digital being one, run by a local guy called James Brown, incredible guy, really smart, works with us closely on that. And so those are the costs associated. But what I would say to business owners that perhaps don't have a lot of cash at the moment, times are tough, it's fair enough, is the one platform to focus on is LinkedIn in terms of getting getting in front of the most people for zero budget. Because you can post on LinkedIn and it'll be seen organically by lots of your connection. I say lots because it can vary. If you've got 1,000 connections, it'll be seen by between 200 and 400, depending on how engaging your content is. On other platforms, Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly Twitter, it's really limited in terms of the percentage of total followers that will see your content. And that's the natural evolution. So if you've not got much cash, the answer is LinkedIn. Also, TikTok's incredible. Just be aware of the fact that as of recording, it's just temporarily, I believe, being banned in the US.
Yeah.
I don't expect that ban to come to the UK just yet, but it might. So that's something to be aware of. So that's a little bit of an idea, Dan, in terms of the costs associated.
So if I did want to, sell or promote my business, and I wanted to get you to do it, I would be basically employing you to provide content through either my personal or my business channel.
Quickly before that, Danny,
go.
You're actually also paying to get the consultancy on the strategy.
Yes,
because there's no point just creating stuff for the sake of it.
Right.
It needs so we consult on your goals and objectives. So that's the strategy piece. That's part of the 1 month non-negotiable onboarding we have. Then we create the content for those platforms. That's what you're paying for.
Yeah. But it wouldn't be a direct sell. You wouldn't be ever suggesting that we put a product, click here, buy now. None of that.
It depends on the objectives, but it's unlikely that will be the case.
Yeah.
It depends on the business. We work at the moment with an electrical wholesaler, for example, where there are more call to actions. It's a bit more of an ask.
Yeah.
But it totally depends on the business. The media you've got available, the calls to actions, I could go on and on and on and on and on about that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The answer is it depends, and that's the right answer. And if anyone says there is only one way, they're wrong.
I'm sure.
I'm really happy with our discussion today, Danny. I hope it was of value to your community, to your audience. I think you asked me earlier, what would be, asking of the community, what can they give me? I think, outside of the big C piece, it's, come my way if you've got any questions and queries on social media, because it doesn't need, because I think what you kind of meant by your question earlier is, is it this big overbearing, expensive cost rather than an attainable investment, and that is the case with us anyway. So feel free to head my way if it's a one-off project or it's something in the long term that you're serious about building.
Certainly. Well, thank you for your time, Chris. It's been a pleasure having you on here, of which is the second episode.
I'm really proud of that.
We've got some really cool guests lined up, and I'm sure, this will continue, maybe grow exponentially, I don't know.
I might put it in my LinkedIn bio, Danny. I'm going to put episode 2 of the Norfolk Business Show.
Absolutely.
I'm that proud.
Yeah. Awesome. Right, we'll call that a wrap.
Thanks so much.
Thank you ever so much for watching, guys, and tune in next time. Cheers, Chris.
Cheers.
The Norfolk Business Show. Good vibes and great conversation with Danny Snelling. Sponsored by MT Comms.